Welcome, everyone, to our inaugural joint Delta Mosquito Vector Control District and Oxitec Public Education Webinar. Our introduction to Oxitec in California, a project based on strong partnerships with local governments, communities, and experts. My name is Rajiv Vaidyanathan. I'm Director of U.S. Programs at Oxitec, and we're joined today by Dr. Mustafa Deban, the General Manager and Medical and Veterinary Entomologist for Delta Mosquito and Vector Control District. Dr. Deban, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Rajiv.
We're also joined by Dr. Kevin Gorman, Chief Development Officer at Oxitec. Kevin, welcome.
Thanks, Rajiv. Hello, everybody.
A couple of ground rules before we really get started. I'll be moderating our session today, and we'll be hosting a series of these public educational webinars throughout this year, and we'll get to that list of webinar titles during this talk. These webinars are open to everyone, so please share. Let your neighbors know, let your family, let your colleagues know. We will be putting them out for the rest of the year, and everyone is invited. So thank you for joining us today. We know the timing is a little funny on the West Coast. All these webinars are recorded and they are made available afterwards. So if 5 o'clock Pacific is not working out for you, don't worry. You can come back and you can see it at your leisure. We are going to have a Q&A period at the end of this. The questions will be collected, and if we cannot answer something this time, don't worry, we will get to it. And if you leave contact, we will answer all of these questions. We're going to try to stay on topic, which is really public and community engagement, and the questions will reflect that. So we will still be accepting questions at info@oxitec.com if we don't get to your answers, to your questions and answers now. And we will be publishing the Q&A after the presentation. Our agenda today, I'm sure it's on your mind, why now and why California? An introduction to the science at Oxitec and the self-limiting mosquito technology, what our plans are for this year, and then we'll get to the questions and answers. I'm going to defer now, and I'm going to mute my microphone. And Dr. Deban, please take it away. If you want me to advance the slides, you let me know.
Thank you. Hi, everybody. This slide shows the history of when Edes Aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, came into California. As you can see, it started in 2013, and it really was first detected in Fresno, Madera, and San Mateo counties, areas that are close to us. In 2014, it was detected in Kern, Tulare, which is still, this is our county, Los Angeles in the south, and San Diego counties. It was mainly more in the central and the south. And then, of course, 2015 in Orange County, still down there in the south. And we started to realize the challenges with this Edes Aegypti, which is globally, not just in California. It tends to hide, in small containers where it breeds, and oviposits in very small larval sites, whether it's a cap of a bottle or even a tire or maybe a planter. It's a very sneaky mosquito that hides, and you cannot be able to find it. That's why we need to go and look for it. And also, the interesting thing about this mosquito is that it's a daytime biter. That's why its behavior shows up more during the daytime. But it can show up at night too. But mostly the problem is because we don't want the kids to be bitten by this daytime mosquito when they're playing outside. And also the problem with this mosquito is that it has developed resistance. It's resistant to a lot of pesticides. So whatever you throw at it, it's not really works because it's very difficult to manage. Next slide, please. And some of the diseases transmitted by this yellow fever mosquito, such as dengue, yellow fever, chikungunya, and Zika, and also even dog heartworm disease, presents a very threat to the public health in California and also even in the world globally. And so in California, we might not yet have, hopefully never, we have only travel acquired cases in California, where people come either from, say, Central America, South America, or Africa, and if they have a viral disease that's carried by the Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, the yellow fever mosquito can carry that viral by biting a human being who has come into California and has these viral diseases. And that's how the transmission can start, and then can develop a local transmission like what happened in Florida. Right now, thankfully, we don't have the diseases that the yellow fever mosquito carries, and we are trying to prevent it. And we are collaborating with the Oxitec so that we can do the best we can to keep these viruses from being picked up and become local, carried by the yellow fever mosquito. This yellow fever mosquito, Aedes aegypti, is the #1 reason the public calls us, meaning the Delta mosquito and vector control district, to complain about this mosquito so we can go and try and help people from getting bitten by this mosquito. It is the #1 reason, especially during the day. Next slide, please. This is a slide that shows that 10 mosquito and vector control districts were interested in joining and also supporting Oxitec for doing this pilot project here in California. And we are so glad and happy and lucky that we were able to be the ones selected by Oxitec. And so these 10 participatory, they wanted the EPA to obviously approve the experimental unit permit so that we can, whoever was selected to do the field projects will be doing it here. A lot of counties, I say a lot, there are 22 counties in California that have a population now with Aedes aegypti since 2013, when I said earlier when it started. Others are still detecting this invasive pest as recently as 2020. And who knows, with the climate change, it can also keep on going way up further in the north of California. You can see now it's up north, but it can go further up. And also some of the white spaces where it's not there, it might be there. Next slide, please. This just gives you an example of the distribution of the mosquito, this Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito, since 2018 until 2021. And you can see how the numbers, average the number caught per week. And you can see a lot of times the numbers start in May, and then they really, go very high up in August. That's the trend has been going on like that since 2018. And we are monitoring that, and we will be doing all we can to, control it. Well, I don't know if we can control, but we can manage. That's what we're trying to do. So next slide, please. This is just to let you know that, last year, we asked our district to support us in going after this Aedes aegypti, the yellow fever mosquito. And we had about 16,000 surveys that went out. And we asked people if they can help us by paying about $12.50 every 2 years to fight this mosquito. And about 57% of the district voted yes. And now we're going to do our best to keep the promise in managing this mosquito. And the citizens of Delta MVCD, mosquito vector control districts, are also, we found out, they are very interested in innovative mosquito control technologies such as Oxitec is going to be bringing to the area. So we're very happy. I, as a general manager, I'm always looking for also, novel, integrated, novel, innovative mosquito control. And Oxitec will be bringing that to our community. Next slide, please. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you very much for that introduction to Aedes aegypti and to Delta MVCD, Mustafa. At this point, we'll make a transition and introduce ourselves. And so, Kevin, you're on.
Thanks, Rajiv. Much obliged. Thanks, Mustafa. Great introduction. I'm going to talk in this section about Oxitec, introduce Oxitec as a company briefly, and then also the technology itself. Hopefully that's going to stimulate some great questions. What I would ask or remind everybody is that there's a Q&A section on the right-hand side somewhere, and fire your questions in, because the team will pick those up and push those out to us later for the question and answer session. So please do, start putting your questions in as soon as you wish. And with that, we can move on to the next slide. Oxitec is a company that came out of Oxford University originally back in 2002. So 20 years ago now, we've been working on these particular biological pest control solutions. And we feel that they are particularly novel. It allows us to put the actual biological control tool into the hands of the public, of the vector control municipality, of companies and of people themselves. There's a chance here to really revolutionize the way that we tackle pest management, but in particular in this situation, public health pest management in the form of mosquitoes. We are immensely proud of our technology. We know that it's got huge potential, and we're just delighted to be working with some really esteemed partners such as Delta Mosquito Vector Control District to actually bring this technology through to the US. We've been fully commercial in Brazil with this product now since towards the end of last year. We got commercial approval back in 2020 for this product, but launched in 2021, and it's a taste of what we'd like to see in the US. Making this kind of technology available to people and allowing them to choose if they want to use it and when. Next slide, please. We are a relatively young company, 20 years, as I mentioned, but in this kind of industry, 20 years isn't actually that long in a lot of ways. We've been doing a lot of work since we initially spun out of Oxford, and over that time we've been working in the field now for well over 10 years, doing pilots with this technology. We've grown to be around about 250 people globally. We have over 15 nationalities represented in our company, and we're super proud of our international multicultural heritage. It's something that we really foster. We've got a lot of scientists, but we've also got a lot of other specialities too within the team. And we have R&D facilities, world-class facilities, I would say, in the UK and in Brazil, where we have different units, and we're also developing a brand new large facility just at this very moment. Lots of different skill sets within the team, right the way from basic science, if you like, the genetics and the biotechnology, all the way through that list, right the way through down towards community engagement. It's a very diverse mix of people, a very diverse mix of skills and knowledge, and that really underpins the work that we do. Next slide, please, Rajiv. So how does this technology work? We release male insects. In the case of mosquitoes, that's a moth in the picture, of course, but in the case of mosquitoes, it works exactly the same. Our mosquitoes have two extra genes. One is a self-limiting gene, and that's the self-limiting gene is the one that kills the female insect. And then one is the marker gene, and that allows us to identify them. So we have male mosquitoes. We release male-only mosquitoes, and they fly out and mate with female mosquitoes in and around the local environment. Our mosquitoes don't travel very far. They travel a few hundred meters, most of them less than 100 meters. And so it's a fairly localized effect. Those males mate with the wild females, and those females who would normally have male and female offspring only have male offspring. All the female offspring die at a very, very young, early aquatic stage. That prevents those females contributing to the next population, and if we keep releasing and over a period, then we end up with a crash in the local population of Aedes aegypti. It's pretty simple in its theory. It's a mating-based technology, so it only targets this particular species. It doesn't affect directly any other species. Of course, because of the genetics, we can guarantee male-only releases. That's one of the beauties of this particular approach, is that we don't have to do all that manual sex sorting that sometimes you have to, and we can get 100% male-only releases through using the genetics and ensuring that females aren't released, and that females can't survive, and that it is extremely effective. It's safe and non-toxic, as mentioned there, but it's also traceable in the field, which is great. That marker gene that I mentioned, it allows the insects to be looked at under a specific wavelength of light, just a UV light, and then you can actually see a little glow within the insect, which allows us to tell which of the insects has been parented by an Oxitec male. So we can bring back in insects and we can say, hey, look, we've got 50% of the population are parented by our males. That's perfect. That's just what we need. We'll keep releasing the same amount. But if we're too low or we're too high, it allows us to monitor and up or lower our rate to stay efficient. Once we gain control of a population, we can drop down the release rate to make sure that we're being extra efficient. It's a really cool tool, that marker, and allows us to be operationally bang on target all the time. These insects are self-limiting in the environment. They're designed not to persist. They're not like a GM crop or something which is designed to persist in some adverse environment. These are designed to disappear. And as such, that's exactly what they do, and they don't persist for long term in the environment. There's a few generations of our males once releases have stopped, which will carry through and dilute out, usually in about 3 to 6, 7, 8 generations. But there's no long-term persistence, and that residual activity is something that we like, which is obviously very useful, and something that we'll be measuring as part of these planned pilots. And then lastly, there, dilutes insecticide resistance. Very important. Insecticide resistance, as Mustafa has mentioned, is a real problem. It's developing fast in public health to many of the active ingredients that are now being used. Some of them, resistance is ubiquitous right throughout populations of Edes aegypti. So it's a real challenge. And this kind of technology, this biological approach, has the ability to dilute insecticide resistance by introducing susceptibility or susceptible genes. And that really can be, effectively synergistic between the two types of strategies. Lots of peer-reviewed publications, over 100, mainly all available on our website. It really is a very, very critiqued technology, globally respected leader in biotechnology as a company, but we don't rest on any laurels. We publish all our papers in open source journals to make sure that everybody can read them, and we put them on the website as soon as we possibly can. The technology itself, as I mentioned, is very effective, and not least because of those extra males. We get not only the males that we put out, but all those offspring males as well working for us. We've had some really great biosafety approvals. As I mentioned at the very start, we're commercial now in Brazil. This is a commercially available product. You can order it online at home, and these mosquitoes will get delivered to your door, and then you can put them in your backyard. You can order them as a vector control municipality, and use them to protect your area and your public. We've also got an agricultural product deregulated in Brazil too, so that's 2 fully deregulated products that carry this technology, including this particular Edes aegypti. Thanks, Rajiv. A slide here just charting some of that pathway through Brazil, through a couple of other countries, back in the days of when we had a OX513A. That's the blue circles on the left-hand side. 2018, we pivoted to this new generation, if you like, of technology, this one with the genetic sexing that allows us to put out eggs into boxes, allows anybody to put eggs into boxes and do this for themselves. A real step change for us, and as we've grown since then, as you can see, you know, we launched in Brazil back in November 2021, but we've done some really sterling work in the US very recently as well. Those figures up there, Rajiv, just flick one back if you can, just for a second. The 92, 93, 94% figures. These are some of the figures following some of those projects, which where communities were surveyed. These are people who wanted the project to continue, wanted it to be rolled out across other neighborhoods in the project, or showed support. We always end up with high levels of support in the communities that we work with. It's imperative to us that we have the support of the community, of course, and that is always almost always unerring, in all locations that's been the case. Thanks, Rajiv. Couple of quick pictures here, just showing the product itself. So sort of center bottom right, that you can see the two boxes there. Just above those is one of the boxes we used last year in the US, in Florida. These are some of the pictures and the brandings that we've used for the commercial product in Brazil, just to give you a flavor really of the sort of slightly different kind of fun approach that we're taking to getting this kind of product into the community and getting people to understand how usable, accessible, and friendly it is. Thanks, Rajiv. A few here, the sort of Instagram, social media outputs that associated that launch campaign late last year. And here, you know, just an indication really of some of the really important community work that we do. It's fundamental, of course, not just to the success of our projects, but to ensuring that people feel integrated. It's not just about telling people what we're doing. It's about us listening and understanding, you know, what drives people, what makes them, you know, fear this mosquito. How much do they want to get rid of it? Where are the problem areas? How would they like us to communicate with them? All sorts of questions that we need to understand so that we can provide a great service to the public themselves. We use all sorts of vehicles. It could be public meetings. It could be literature at the doorstep. It could be speaker vans, all sorts of different ways of communicating with the local public. And if there's one thing we've learned over all the years, it's that that program has to be sensitive and tailored to that particular environment. Everywhere's different, and everywhere likes their information in different ways, but also likes to feedback in different ways too. Great partners are critical to ensure that those kind of programs go well and that they're delivered locally with a local flavor and with a local expertise. And partners is something we've always done well. We've had some fantastic partners over the years. This is just a flavor of some of those. As you can see, there are some very esteemed names in there, not just as funding as funders or underwriters, but particularly as some of those historic collaborators that we have in that long list. Lots of regulatory approvals and technical opinions from right around the world. Some of those regulatory opinions are shown here. This is a combination of regulatory approvals for contained work, for field studies, for larger demonstrations, right around the world for our agriculture and our public health products. And what I think, you know, what I hope it conveys really is that regulatory agencies all around the world like this kind of technology. They see the benefits of it, they see the potential, and they want us to explore further to see if it's something that can help them, be it in food security or be it in public health or animal health. So From a regulatory perspective, of course, in the US, the federal approval has been received for this EUP already. The EPA granted us approval for an EUP and extended that this year from Florida to also include California. It's a huge process. Originally, it took the EPA 14 months to do the original review, and it's taken them at least that again this time to do a review. It's a very large package. You know, it's well over 4,500 pages of work. It's 25 commissioned studies, a whole host of documentation. And as you can see from some of those data requirements, you can see it's very comprehensive. This is the kind of depth that's submitted to EPA, but also that then gets relayed through to some of the state regulators so that they can have a look at their choosing. And here's some of the conclusions. We've had, a finding of no significant impact by the FDA years previously to the EPA becoming the competent authority for this kind of technology. But the EPA did a very thorough review and made some very key findings, in terms of its safety for humans, animals, and the environment. No appreciable risk of doing these kind of experimental use permits, was an absolute prerequisite for their support. And of course, we were delighted when they came to their conclusions and not only granted us approval to do releases in Florida and in Texas at the time, but have since extended that to California. This last slide of mine here really just quickly describes some of the work we've done, or gives a summary of some of the work we've done in Florida over the last 12 to 18 months. A lot of prep to get this off the ground, and of course then COVID hit, and the pandemic certainly got in the way of a lot of things. But we did manage to get started. So in 2021, April 2021, we started in the Florida Keys on this particular EUP and had a really successful year. We had 2 storms to deal with as well as the pandemic, but with the goodwill and strength of our partner as well in the Florida Keys Mosquito Control District, we had a great year. We showed that our males are getting out there into the field. They're coming out of the boxes well. When they come out of the boxes, they're fit and they're healthy, and that they mate with the females. Of those mated females, all the progeny, well over 22,000 individual eggs brought back to the lab, and every one of them taken through to adulthood, and not one single female in there. Clearly efficacy in the terms of making sure that it's 100% lethal to the female progeny is really important. Something that we take for granted sometimes, because we know it's there, but it's a unique tool in that essence. It's a genetic mating-based technology, so you can't have a sublethal dose. You get a copy of the gene, and if you're female, you die. And so it's very, very effective and very, very sustainable. And with that, I hope that's stimulated a few questions, but we'll see at the end. But please keep the questions coming in, as I mentioned, and I'll hand back to you, Rajiv.
Thank you, Kevin. And I would encourage everyone out there who's listening to submit your questions. You can, we're seeing some of them coming through, so we'll get to them at the end of this. Thank you. You heard a little bit about why California, why Delta, and some background about Oxitec. I want to bring it together, right? And what we're proposing to do with you. And so that really means community engagement and working with the public. This is very much a hand-in-hand. We need to understand through Delta which neighborhoods actually have Aedes aegypti, which neighborhoods are good candidates for this kind of a pilot project. So there's a real complementary mix here of Delta's knowledge of the neighborhoods, Delta's knowledge about the mosquito, the population, the geographic distribution, the seasonality. We could not do that without Delta. And that'll really be their greatest contribution, is the intel about the biology of the mosquito in the district. We'll be working hand in hand with the local communities to really understand what your needs are, because I'll tell you right now, we can't do this without you. So we're very, very grateful for this opportunity to work with the communities in the Delta Mosquito and Vector Control District. And this, as we mentioned, is the first in a series of webinar presentations that'll talk about who we are, what we're doing, what the results are, what our next steps are, and we'll also have some other presentations to talk about, say, the biology of Aedes aegypti, or what we're learning from the feedback that we're getting from the communities. Now, of course, we're planning on doing all the kind of checklist sort of things. We'll be providing a listserv, of course, a website. We'll be providing webinars, but most importantly, we're going to be reaching out to you. So hopefully you'll see us in our white Oxitec shirts. We'll be knocking on your doors, and we'll be asking you, what do you know about Oxitec, what your interests are, what your questions are. And so certainly in a series of webinars like this, it's very comfortable for you to either watch it live or come back to it afterward. But also when we're at your door, please ask us whatever you want. Our staff is very knowledgeable. We're eager to learn what your needs are and how we might best respond to them. And so, yes, this year we will be actively engaging with you, the community of Delta MVCD. One thing I'd like to add is, if you are interested in having us visit your high school, your garden club, might be an Audubon center, if you are interested in having someone from Oxitec come to your group, your organization, and either give a short presentation such as this, or answer questions, right? Please reach out to us. We would be very happy to engage with you and to answer your questions. So yes, we routinely engage with community organizations. As we mentioned, we are planning a series of webinars this year. Some of them are going to be like this, where it's kind of an introduction to our staff or an introduction to who we are. And some of them might be more technical. We'll certainly have one on climate change, some on the technology, and the results of working with you, and an introduction to some of our senior scientists, both in the US and in the UK. And we do have some building and facilities that we are developing in Visalia, and we'd love to give you a virtual tour so you can see exactly what it is we are doing in the community. So we open the doors to you so you can see inside. A little bit about what we've proposed and what is under review now with the California Department of Pesticide Regulation, or DPR. Most importantly, these are very small regulatory pilots. They have a really good statistical power, and it's what we very strictly adhere to in order to provide the data that the EPA, so on a federal level, and state regulatory agencies require. And that is true whether it's the Florida Department of Agriculture and Consumer Services, FDACS, or the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. So none of these are operational at this point, right? This is all just community outreach, and this is our opportunity to let you know what we would love to do and what that really means. Essentially, we're hoping very much to do 3 kinds of pilot projects. And one is a multi-point release in a neighborhood. The goal here is really to see how well our boys can find local Aedes aegypti, how well they can mate, and what the persistence is of that fluorescent marker in those populations. So this is a multi-point release in any one neighborhood. Now the goal at some point will be to see if homeowners, individual homeowners, can release our non-biting male Aedes aegypti in their backyard and have suppression of the invasive pest on a much smaller scale. So whereas the first project is a multi-point release, our second pilot project would be a single point release in a number of different homes. So the goal here is really to see, one, how far do they fly, ensuring that they are all males, and what effect that has on Aedes aegypti in any one yard. And finally, we also want to know just how far our boys can fly. It is hot in Tulare County, as you know. It can go into the hundreds and stay in the triple digits for weeks. So it is a critical question and a critical distinction between a very humid environment in Florida to a very arid environment in California. So it's an important question, not only that they are all male, but also how far do they fly? And it's important to understand that flight radius. So these are the 3 projects that we'd really love to undertake to understand better the flight radius, the mating success, and the persistence of our non-biting male mosquitoes in Visalia. Currently, our projects are under review by the California DPR, and we will share both Delta MVCD and Oxitec will share information about the planned project in subsequent webinars. And during that time, we're very actively going to be hitting the pavement and engaging in community outreach and learning from you what's on your mind, what your questions are about Oxitec and about our projects here. We may also conduct pre-release monitoring or surveillance of Aedes aegypti. That's a really important component. That enables us to understand the seasonality, the numbers, and essentially the pest pressure in the very communities that are affected by this invasive pest species. And during this time, California DPR will continue their review of our RA application. We're doing okay so far. We're about 38 minutes into it. And what I'd like to kind of segue into is if we run out of time tonight, and if we don't get to all of your questions, you can still email at info@oxitec.com, and we'll attempt to answer your questions if they're not included tonight. And in our post-event summary, we also publish on oxitec.com/California. At this time, I want to thank you for being a part of this. If you have some specific questions for Dr. DeBun, for Dr. Gorman, or for me, they should be showing up. So I'm going to go to our questions, and I'm just going to scroll up here and see what's coming through. Thank you. Dr. DeBun, I'd like you to start off. And we have a question here. Dr. DeBun, you said, quote, a lot of insecticides are no longer effective with Aedes aegypti. Which insecticides still work to control this species, and are any of those insecticides currently in use in California or elsewhere in the US? I'll mute myself.
Yes, that's a great question. The pesticides that are used for Aedes aegypti are pyrethrin, and in some areas they work because Aedes aegypti hasn't established itself very well. Once it does, they become resistant. So we don't have any new pesticides or insecticides for Aedes aegypti that work. Right now, we only have the industry has pyrethrin that are working, but some areas they work, some areas they don't, but they have developed resistance. What's coming in, science is also looking for new active ingredients to fight Aedes aegypti, but they won't be available from what I understand, probably within I would say within 2 to 3 years. But when we're looking in the districts like mine and throughout the United States, we're looking at new novel techniques, such as the example of Oxitec, which is where you use a male non-biting mosquito to release it out in the environment, and that non-biting male mosquito knows how to find a female mosquito. It's like, imagine sending a technician with a pesticide to kill a female mosquito when they are hiding. With a human technician can not only find them all because they're hiding, as I said, in caps or in bottles or in tires or containers. But a male mosquito goes out there and knows how to find that female mosquito. And it's an ingenious way where you insert a limiting gene in a male mosquito, and that male mosquito goes and finds a female mosquito and mates, and then the female mosquito will not reproduce any new female mosquitoes. That to me is very ingenious, because we're stopping the female mosquito from not only ovipositing, overproducing, and that's what will, bring them down. As a pesticide, you can even find a new pesticide. Mosquitoes in general, especially Aedes aegypti, evolution is on their time. The more you hit them with a pesticide, it takes only one female mosquito to become resistant to a pesticide, and then now we have a problem, because all the progeny will come out, the females will be resistant to that pesticide. So all we're doing, we're just inundating the environment with pesticides, and the mosquito keeps living. That's in a long, shot, answering your question. But the point is, there are no new pesticides that can take care of Aedes aegypti. They are being studied, they're being developed, but nothing new yet. And if we lose the pyrethrin that we're using right now, and if all the Aedes aegypti becomes resistant to all of them, then there's nothing we can do. We're only wasting the pesticide in the environment and messing up the environment and not killing the invasive mosquito.
Thank you, Dr. Debon. Actually, that's a really good segue to our next question. So the original question, of course, is about the insecticides currently used to control Aedes aegypti. What is used? Why are they not working? And when we look at new and innovative technologies in parallel, one person has asked, and I'd like to forward this to Kevin. What is the process? What is the regulatory process for the Oxitec mosquitoes in California?
Thanks, Rajiv, and hopefully I can explain that well enough. So to get our mosquitoes through the regulatory system in California, it first has to go through the federal review process. That was the one that I described earlier. The EPA, Environmental Protection Agency in the USA, do a thorough and comprehensive review of a dossier that we submit. But they also look into the literature themselves, do their own investigations and their own work to understand what they're doing a risk assessment essentially of the work that's been proposed. Once they get through their review, they make a recommendation, and that recommendation will include specific localities that have been put forward as part of the EUP, in this case California. That positive review at federal level would trigger a state review. The state review wouldn't happen unless the federal one had been successful. That state review then gets triggered, providing that the application is put into the state, and in our case it is, and it's a research authorization request from us to the California Department of Pesticide Regulation. And then California, CalDPR for short, they then conduct their own review process to ensure that they do their due diligence and critically assess the application to see whether there's the potential for any side effects or unwanted risk. And then although there's statutory timelines for the federal review process, that can often get extended. And then for the state regulatory process, the timelines are fairly much open to CalDPR in this case, and they review in their good time and give us a response. Once that's through, there are some other minor items, less major notifications or permissions that are required to bring an insect like that into the state. Import permits, etc., because it's coming from the UK, but the regulatory process to get those insects released is really a federal decision followed by a state decision. So hopefully that answers the majority of it.
Thank you. It seems a lot more complex than people realize, but yes, there are multiple stages that we have to go through before we can do anything, before we can do any releases. Dr. DeBun, again, I think it's kind of a logical question here. It's a two-parter. One, just how serious a pest, how many calls, that sort of thing, is Aedes aegypti in the Delta Mosquito Vector Control District? And then the second part of that is, will Delta MVCD be using Oxitec Aedes aegypti for control of Aedes aegypti this year? That's a two-parter.
Okay, thank you. The first part is definitely yes. There is a problem with Aedes aegypti in our district. We have like numerous calls, hundreds of calls, and if you would like to experience it, come to our office from June on, and you'll hear people calling. It is a problem. It is, the Aedes aegypti is in our area, and we also trap it. We have the numbers. We know where they are, and so forth. The second part of the question is, I can't do anything with the Oxitec because this is not my project. This is Oxitec's project, and Oxitec will release when California Department of Pesticide Regulation gives them the approval to do so. Dr. DeBon will never release any Oxitec male mosquitoes because I don't have Oxitec male mosquitoes. What I do, my job is to go out to the community and ensure that we protect you from the bites, from mosquito bites, and from mosquito-borne diseases. However it is, whether we use pesticide or we use drones, we use educational outreach, and now we are collaborating with Oxitec. Once California Department of Public Pesticide Regulation gives them approval, they will do their project and they will collect the data, and then we will see what it is, and then they will send it to EPA, and EPA will obviously take a look at it and analyze it and so forth. Dr. DeBon will not release any Oxitec male mosquitoes because I don't have them. I don't have the capability. But what Dr. DeBon is going to do and Delta Mosquito Vector Control District is going to collaborate with Oxitec and go out to the community and explain what Oxitec is going to be doing, and we will explain what we do for you, what we have, and that's what we will be doing. Dr. DeBon And Delta Mosquito Vector Control will not release any male mosquitoes because we don't have them. It's a project that's dedicated to Oxitec, and they're the ones that have the capability. They're going to be having a lab, and they will rear their own male non-biting mosquitoes and release them. What we will do is we will give them data. We will show them where the problem is, because we know where the Edes Aegypti breeds the most. We have data. We have traps. We trap throughout the district. That's the data they don't have, and that's where we come in. But we don't release anything. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Debon. This is kind of a long question, Kevin, but I think we can condense it a little bit. And that is, there was one slide where we talked about a whole list of evaluations and reports submitted to EPA, and EPA's evaluation of no risk due to allergenicity, no risk to human health, dermal toxicity, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And essentially it said that that Oxitec mosquitoes pose no risk to human health or to animals or to other insects. So the question is, what were those evaluations of human health? Yes, what evaluations of human health have been done? And if you could maybe go into that in a little more detail.
So they evaluate human health, but that doesn't mean that necessarily they're looking at data that's produced on humans. So, you know, they'll look at feeding studies and all sorts of things as you know, as proxies in that sense. When it comes to allergenicity or other things, again, they've got databases they can go and search in to look for, you know, homologous proteins and things like that. So there is, there's a whole host of things that they can look into to examine potential impact on human health. That doesn't necessarily mean that we're supplying them data, that's produced on humans. So just to be clear there. The EPA look at a whole host of different things. So when it comes to this particular pilot design, they've also concluded that it's not a study on humans as well. You know, this isn't, if you were to feed these mosquitoes to humans and assess the impact on humans that way, that would be different, of course, but that's not the case. This is a case where this is a pilot study on mosquitoes, you know, to see if we can affect mosquitoes. This isn't a pilot study on humans, and so it doesn't classify as something that needs individual consent. So that's just some of those elements.
I think that's an important distinction. I mean, this is not a clinical trial. This is not, you know, this is not a human use. This is truly how far are the mosquitoes flying and how well are they mating with other mosquitoes. Dr. Debon, I want to give you a chance here to let the audience know about the 100-year anniversary of Delta MVCD and what your plans are this summer.
Oh, thank you for bringing it up. Did somebody ask about that? I'm curious.
That's me.
Okay, great. Yes.
We're talking about community engagement, you know,
yes.
And so this will be there, right? Yeah. So this is an opportunity to please go on.
Yes, this is a great milestone that's coming up. We are in the 100-year anniversary of Delta Mosquito and Vector Control District. It started in 1922, and since then, Delta had different names, but Delta Mosquito Vector Control District has been helping the community. Whether it was the one city, and then it became 2 cities, and now we're up to 12 cities, small cities in the district. And we're planning to, have tours for everybody to come and see our equipment, talk to our staff, ask questions. We will show you what we do, how we do it, what equipment that we go out to the community and use, and also maybe give you some some food and music and have some good time, and let you know that we're proud to serve you and take care of the community and answer any questions that you have, because you are why we are here, to protect you and to prevent the mosquitoes from biting you and transmitting mosquito-borne diseases. So we have a lot of plans. We are right now making banners, logos, and we're going to be also making some stuff that we would like to give away to the public, and we look forward to it. And it will be June the 11th from 10 o'clock in the morning to 2 o'clock. And we would appreciate if you all would come and see what we do for you. And we are proud of that. And we aspire to be the best, mosquito and vector control district in California. And we think we are. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. DeBun. So that's June 11th.
Yes.
We are coming up on time. We have about 3 to 4 minutes left. Kevin, if you wouldn't mind, let's end it on how can I participate in the project? Where should people go who are interested in, one, learning more about the project, and two, signing up as hosts?
Yeah, well, our website's the place to go. The Oxitec.com website. It's super easy to find. Search for Oxitec, go to Oxitec.com, and then in there you'll find the public health pages, and you'll see pages on our projects, and that's where you can get all sorts of further information. There's a plethora of information on the website. So if you need to do some reading, if you want to gem up, if you want to find out answers to most questions, if you want to sign up, if you want to join the project, all the links that you'll need will be on the website there. We'll have dedicated project websites and other, other advertisements coming round. So be that flyers, be that etc. So you won't be able to. We'll have our ears to the ground at all times. But if you want to just contact us directly, that's the way to do it. You can always call us, email us. All those details are on the website too. We've got central numbers and central emails that we'll pick up and get straight back to you.
And let me add, if you don't know where to go, all you got to do is this, because we are collaborating with Oxitec, and if it's easy for you to reach us, we'll let you know where to go, whether by phone number or by email. So we are here to help you both ways, and from us and from Oxitec. The goal is to ensure that you're protected from mosquito-borne diseases and mosquito bites.
And to do it with you, absolutely. It's something that we have to do together, and
let me add there that all of that is online. However, we also have a forum. We'll be walking by. We'll be knocking on your doors, so we can take that down as well. And we'll be providing you websites where you can sign up, but we'll also have forms to fill out.
We all together, Oxitec and Delta Mosquito and Vector Control Districts, and you, we will work together to find a solution to this Edes Aegypti. I mean, together, if we work together, we will do the best we can, and we'll also listen to you, because you are who we're trying to protect, and we will do whatever we can to ease you in this project with both of us.
On that point, I'd like to thank Dr. DeBun and Dr. Gorman, and we look forward to this year. That concludes our first webinar, the first Delta MVCD Oxitec webinar. Please reach out to us, and we will reach out to you as well. We want to know what's on your mind. Thank you both, and good night.